What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa. Today, we are going to be talking about investing in the trading card space. And man, listen, in all of my videos, I've been referencing the fact that I've been doing this for 20 years. And I honestly feel like a schmuck when I say that. But I want to explain why I say that. I say that because there's a lot of options out there, right? I feel like there's no greater resource or commodity in the entire world than time. And the fact that you guys decide to spend some of your time with me is a responsibility that I take extraordinarily seriously. That's why I do all this data dive. That's why I spend all this time on these videos. I shoot take after take after take, and I trash 99% of them before I finally come up with one that I feel like is worthy of your eyes and ears. So when I say that just to validate the fact that I've been doing this a long time, and it doesn't mean you should listen to me. It doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to me. It doesn't mean I have all the answers. But I just want to make sure that when I say that, you guys understand, hey, I've been doing this a while. I've been around the block. I always talk about I want us playing chess when other people are playing checkers. So that's why I bring it up. Now, why did I spend 30 seconds explaining that at the beginning of this video? Because it's super relevant. We're going to be looking at data, trading card data from 2008 till 2022. Okay, and this is going to be sports card data. Now, I want to explain why. Don't click off because this is a Pokemon channel. We're going to look at sports card data. We are doing that because sports card data is more baked, it's more mature at this point in time than Pokemon space. I also feel like sports cards and Pokemon cards have been moving in lockstep recently. When we see rises and falls, it tends to go in both markets concurrently, which is exciting for me because we can look at the way sports cards have performed in the past and we can somewhat correlate them with the way Pokemon cards are going to perform in the future, which is a very powerful tool to have in our tool belt. And this whole graph from 2008 to 2022, I was investing, I was buying, I was spending money. Like I was very, very active during this whole period of time, so I can give you some relevant feedback as to what it was like to be in this space. And you know, we've been through a very exciting time over the last couple of years. We've seen everything peak. We've seen everybody pile in, which is really exciting. There's a lot of new content creators out there who are putting out some awesome stuff. But I want to take a minute in this video too to kind of reset some expectations, see where we're at, see how the card market traditionally performs, because I think it's dangerous if we're all jumping in expecting the results of the last 3 years to continue into the future. Doesn't mean we won't have great gains, doesn't mean there's tons of upside, but I just want to take this minute as somebody who's been through the long haul to kind of show you guys what I've seen in the past and what I expect moving forward in the future, okay? So let's dive into it. As always, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. So this is the chart that we're going to use, and I'm going to explain what it is real quick. So PWCC is a website in the sports card space, and they have a ton of data. They do auctions, they do sales. Like, it is a really, really cool website. They compile all of the data over years and years and years, and they put it into this handy dandy little chart, and it compares. When you see the PWCC 101-2500, they track the 2,500 most valuable, most traded cards in the sports card market, which is a really, really powerful data point. And then they put it against the S&P 500, okay? Now what this is this is an ROI graph assuming an investment that started in 2008, okay? And it's going to track it all the way till the end of 2022. This one right here is the 100 to 2,500 most valuable pre-2000 trading cards. All of that is super relevant. You know I hate to include the top tiers because the top 100 sports cards are ones that you and I and 99% of the people who are watching this video can't afford, and their gains and their value is so extraordinary it would completely ruin the numbers in this chart. I actually have it at the very end and I'm excited to show it to you. It also is pre-2000 because modern cards have a tendency to be very, very, very unstable. They fluctuate up, they fluctuate down. In the sports card market, I am a true vintage investor. Like, I buy old cards, 30s, 40s, 50s. My oldest is from 1911. So that is vintage. In the Pokemon space, I don't think we really have any vintage cards yet. Like, I know everybody refers to the 1999 set as vintage, first edition, all that stuff. That's great, but it's still relatively new. Like, the vintage side of things isn't really baked into the price yet. So that is why we're going to look at the sports card side of things. I think it's a very exciting time to be in the Pokemon space because we have the opportunity to buy these early cards when 10, 15, 30 years from now, we're going to look back and say, hey, do you remember when I picked up that 1999 first edition Pikachu Red Cheeks for XYZ and now it's selling for astronomically more? Super exciting time. A couple other things to call out about this chart so we just understand the data is valid. These are auction prices only, so no private sales, right? So this No Jake Paul $5 million for a Pikachu Illustrator, right? Like these are all auction prices. These are all public sales. This is also looking at PSA slabs. So this is graded cards. Now, no other grading company is in here, just PSA. PSA represents 80% of the graded market. So this gives us a good barometer of the overall health and well-being of the market. This data, and you guys know I love exclusions, right? So this data includes a trade frequency and an outlier exclusion in the algorithm. All that means is it makes sure that there's enough velocity in the cards, they're selling frequently enough to be statistically relevant. So if a card sells one time over the course of 2008 to 2022, it's not going to be included in here, right? Because it doesn't sell enough to be relevant. And it also ensures that if cards are typically selling for $1,000 and all of a sudden it sells for $100,000, that's not real. Like something happens that was too out of the ordinary, so it pulls it out of this algorithm as well. So I say all of that, and I wanted to explain this so you understand what we're looking at moving forward, and you understand why I think this is a good barometer of what we can expect from the Pokemon cards in the future, because they are moving in lockstep with sports cards right now. And I think Pokemon cards has the opportunity long term to take over sports cards in the world of value and in the world of collectability. And I know that's crazy for me to say out loud, but I really feel that way. All right, so let's take a look at this next slide. I'm not going to talk a ton about this, but I thought it was important to bring up. You all have seen hundreds of videos on this. You guys know exactly why it happened, but this is a snapshot of the end of 2019 all the way through the end of 2022 and when the pandemic hit, right? So we're going to see right along in here. Let me get my handy dandy little mouse over here. So you're going to see here is when it all went down, right? This is when the stock market started to crash because everybody was scared of the pandemic, which made a lot of sense. But you'll see right here, even when the market was crashing, sports cards were staying steady, right? We had this steady rose. They didn't ebb. They didn't flow. They were just kind of steady eddy while everybody was imploding here. And then you'll see as supply and demand started to go crazy, you'll see that it just shot up like a rocket ship, okay? It was an at-home hobby. Supply and demand was out of whack. People were feeling nostalgic. There was a huge amount of FOMO. So we saw this incredibly cataclysmic event where things just went through the roof. That is not something that we're going to see long term. I'm not saying it'll never happen again, but it is certainly a unicorn event that we all shouldn't be, banking on moving forward, okay? So that was the pandemic era. That was what happened to sports card prices. This is what things look like over the long term. And I really wanted to call this out because there's a lot of people out there that I have heard comparing, card markets, either in sports cards or in Pokemon, to the S&P 500 over the last 3 years. That is an unfair comparison, and it is unrealistic. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a husband. I'm a father of 2 little girls. I have a lot of financial responsibilities both now and in the future. I have a certain lifestyle that I want my family to have. I am not taking away from any of my stock market investments to put it into Pokemon. Like, I make sure that I have all of that done first before I start going into Pokemon. That doesn't mean that Pokemon won't be a comparable investment. It doesn't mean that it won't outperform. It doesn't mean that it'll underperform. I don't know what the hell it's going to do. All I know is this. Over the last 200 years, you can't beat investing in the U.S. stock market when it comes to long-term wealth building. Again, who knows what will happen? All I can do is look at the past, and the past doesn't always predict the future, but usually the past kind of rhymes. So it at least gives us an idea of where we're heading. And a big call out here too is look at how the stock market and look at how cards performed over the vast majority of time. Remember, a lot of people just got in here. A lot of people were getting in here. This, from 2020 on, is what you hear about a lot of the time. And the reason I wanted to create this video was because I wanted to highlight all of this back here. All of this back here, right? Sports cards in general, and I want to make sure this is abundantly clear, like these are highly desirable cards in the sports card market. Like there are people who spend tens of thousands of dollars on these cards, and there's a big market for these. Over the course of time, it's been a little flat, a little down. We see some growth, but not a ton. The S&P 500, for the most part, has outperformed it. Right? Now, I'm going to show you a slide at the very end to show you how you kind of buck that trend. But I was afraid that people were going to almost have too much faith in these cards. Not that I don't, but just I want to make sure that people understand what the long-term trend was versus just the last 3 years, okay? Because I think there's some really dangerous rhetoric going on about that out there. So here's some other things that I wanted to call out. These are all of the things that happened over this course of time to the economy, either the geopolitical network or global political environment. So Bitcoin was created in 2009, pretty cool. Now in 2022, it's having a rough year, right? It's down 65%, but still way up from that 2009 creation point. There was a Great Recession from 2007 to 2009. There was the bear market in 2009 and 2020, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. There was a housing bubble. It started in 2007. The housing bubble hit its low in 2011. Certainly the war in Afghanistan, 2014, Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine again, in 2022. Talk about viruses out there, like COVID-19 wasn't the first. We had the H1N1 pandemic in 2009. We had the Zika virus in 2015, COVID-19. Just recently, people are talking about monkeypox. I share all of this with you because I want you to look at these graphs and I want you to see that when people are telling you the sky is falling, it might be for the moment, but it's not going to fall forever. Warren Buffett, the greatest institutional investor of our time, has this saying, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. It's very, very important to understand that because a lot of times when we're in the moment, all we can see is what's going on around us, which is important. It's that fight or flight syndrome, right? Like we're in the weeds, our investments are going down. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like you only see what's there, but you forget that it's going to change. It's going to turn around. It has to. Like the U.S. economy, I would never bet against the U.S. economy. Are we going to have bumps in the road? We're going to have problems? Abso-freaking-lutely. But do I think over the course of time, the U.S. economy is going to continue to grow and expand with technology, is going to continue to become bigger, our population is going to continue to grow? Like all of that, I'm saying yes, 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 yes. So I think that overall, the economy is going to do well. And no matter what we face, we're going to find a way through it because we're just, we're perseverers. That's what we do. The other thing that I wanted to call out right here is when I talk about being greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy, if you look at this moment in time right here, so that was when the stock market really dropped. Okay, like this was when height of the COVID-19 pandemic, people were freaking out, which they should have been. Like it was a very scary thing. People lost their lives. Like it's not something to take lightly. I will tell you this, I hit the pause on investing in sports cards and Pokemon cards at this moment. And you know what I did? I was buying in the stock market right here. This whole way down, I was buying because I just knew, I've been doing all of this for too long. I knew this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to buy some of these companies at all time lows. I will have plenty of time in the future to buy sports cards. I will have plenty of time in the future to buy Pokemon cards. This is the time to invest and to build my core portfolio that I will eventually retire on and to just transition all the money that I have in Pokemon and stuff. I didn't sell anything. Let me be abundantly clear. I didn't sell my sports cards. I didn't sell my Pokemon cards. All I did was take that little bit of extra money that I was normally investing in that stuff, and I put it back in the stock market. Reality is I bought all the way down. I never know where the bottom's going to be. Then it started coming up and I continued to buy most of the way up, right? You never know where the bottom is. You never know where the top is. So you dollar cost average in. That's how I do it. And then now once we get back to this point, guess what I did? I still didn't buy a lot of sports cards. I still didn't buy a lot of Pokemon cards because I started to see this upward trend, and I've been doing this for so long, it felt unnatural to me. I just thought there's no freaking way this can continue to go like this. I'm not going to buy anything. I'm not going to sell anything. I could have realized a whole lot of gains, but that's not what I'm about. So what I'm saying right now is when you see these types of market fluctuations, it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of skill, but you just have to trust the data and you have to believe in what's going on. You have to believe in your investments. So that is what I wanted to share here. The long-term trajectory of sports cards and trading cards and all of it is good, but I don't want everybody getting caught up in the last 3 years because that's just not typical of what goes on. All right? So get over to the next slide here. These are the two bear markets that we've experienced since 2008, and I wanted to bring this up because, again, I want to make sure that people understand what happens when the stock market falls, traditionally in the sports card or trading card market. So in 2009, we saw a drop here of almost 28%. 2020, we saw a drop here of about 34%. Look what happened to the trading cards. Look what happened to trading cards. Nothing. They stayed flat. These valuable cards, these investment quality cards, like the top 2,500 cards, they stayed flat. So an important thing to notice here, an important thing to realize is when you buy quality, quality is going to hold its value. Quality is going to be able to withstand the storms. It's going to weather the hardships. It will hold up in the test of time. And the really interesting thing to me when I was pulling this data together was how steady sports cards were against these bear markets. In full transparency, I expected it to spike a little bit. I expected people to be getting out of stocks and bonds, and I thought that they'd be piling into alternative assets like trading cards, but they weren't. It just stayed flat. That's a good thing to remember in case we see more bear markets in the future. I don't know what 2023 is going to bring. There's a lot of craziness going on, but this is what the markets have done. This is what trading cards have done in the past. Again, just an indication, not a who knows what's going to happen, but it's a good indication of the future. So this is the slide I was talking about earlier that I wanted to reference, and it gets a little small here, but you've already seen this top slide. So again, this is 101 to 2,500 most valuable trading cards. You'll see the growth over time. It's really, really flat, not a ton. We get a little blip here, and then we see the pandemic bump right here. But when I talk about, and I say this all the time in my videos, and it's because this is the life that I've lived, is when you have the option to invest in quality cards, even if it means you have to wait longer, even if it means you have to save longer, even if it means you have fewer cards in your collection, quality trumps quantity every single time in this space. I promise you that. Quality trumps quantity every single time. And these are all graded cards. Look at this. These are high graded cards. You see here in 2016, there's even just a few degrees away from top tier was lagging the S&P 500 from an ROI perspective. Up until this pandemic bump, even after this bear market right here, it was still lagging it. But when you look at the quality, when you look at the highest of the high, the top 100 cards, all the way back to almost 2015 is when it starts to diverge. And you see that it's just blowing away the S&P 500. This is our opportunity as Pokemon card collectors and Pokemon card investors right now. The quality is there now. The affordability is there right now. I bought some of my very, very best sports cards for pennies on the dollar compared to what they're selling for now. But my original goal was to buy the highest quality that I could possibly afford of the very best players that I could afford when I started this 20 years ago. My goal now in the Pokemon space is to look for opportunities with outside risk versus reward, where I have much more upside versus downside. I talk about that in all my videos. And I also want to buy those 1999 cards in the highest condition that I possibly can, because I think that those are going to hold the most value over time. And I think that they're going to weather the storm. No matter what happens to the broader market, I think there's always going to be huge demand for those cards, even though the population report is really, really high right now. So I wanted to call this out so you all see the difference of investing in the highest quality versus even just a few degrees lower than the highest quality. So really amazing, really important stuff. And I want to end with this. I'm extraordinarily bullish on the Pokemon market in general. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm making this content. But I want to be the one to educate everybody on the long-term results. So I know it's been a really exciting period of time. I know everybody should continue to be excited. The all-time highs that we've seen, I'm not saying we'll never see them again. We absolutely will. If you think that the all-time highs are already baked in, then you shouldn't be collecting. Like, if you don't think that there's an opportunity for a card over time to get higher value than it was in the past, what are you doing? Like, you have to believe in that. And if you don't, that's fine. But then maybe you should find something else to put your money into. So there will be some cards that have topped out. I'm not saying all of them, but overall, in general, as the market, if you don't think this is going to be upward and to the right for the long term, then you should find something else to do with your money. Unless you simply just want to be collecting for the fact of collecting cardboards and playing the game, that's cool. But you know, I've been doing this a while, and it's been a ton of fun for me. It's been extraordinarily rewarding. I'm thrilled and honored to be here as a part of this space. I think we have a lot of upside. I've got some more videos coming up with some more content where we're going to talk about, hey, you know, is there any potential bubbles out there? I think there's some product that's overpriced that I think the market is going to correct at some point, but there's also a ton of upside that I see out there. So I hope you find content in this video. I hope you really enjoy it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, drop some comments. I'd love to hear from you, and let's have a ton of fun out there collecting. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.